but there is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way.
The question is how does somebody get their mind around this? I mean, it's just too far out to believe. And they're not only talking about changing reality on the physical level, they're talking about infinite possibility in multi-dimensions, where everything that is possible that ever could happen has happened somewhere in some universe, and they're talking about tuning into that. So I guess they think they're going to be the kid at the candy store, and they're going to be able to pick out the little parts of every universe that are the best parts for it. But I can't see how this is going to work, and who in the hell gave them permission to do it, to change reality? You don't think reality's changing yet? Well, you will. You will, because things are happening.
I want you all to imagine, if you want to know what CERN is doing, I want you to imagine you come into a world and you find architecture all over the place, buildings and homes and houses, and you think they're beautiful and it's really a big discovery. You find out with the houses you can house people, you can do many things with a house, with a structure. All of a sudden, after many years, you become curious and you say, what's holding all this together? And you begin to find not nails that you can take out, but glue that has bonded itself to the materials. And you become interested in that glue that's holding the structure together. And so you're fascinated by this glue, and you've tried everything to replicate it. You can't, because it's hardened. Glue is hardened. You come to the realization the only way to find out how this glue is working is to break it down to its basic particles. And you have to have that glue in its former state, not the state after it's already hardened, right? So you don't want it in the cured state, the state that you can see. You want it in its initial state, which is a liquid state, before it hardens. And so CERN, basically, is a device that will allow them to examine particles in their initial state, not after everything is bonded together. That's a very simple way to look at what CERN is doing. They're trying to find the glue that holds everything together.
They have torn apart the fabric of reality interdimensionally, dealing with quark gluons and strangelets and manipulating them. And this new D-Wave quantum computer is making all the calculations for them to reinvent reality. And they can do this on minute levels. I mean, they can change, Looney Tunes to Looney Tunes. They can change Captain Crunch to Captain Crunch. They can change Cocoa Puffs to Cocoa Puffs with one F or two Fs. I mean, they can do those kind of things. I don't know how they're doing it, because I don't know how they're controlling artificial intelligence. It must have an initial programming of some sort when it came to life, when it was born, and there had to be two had to come online at the same time. One had to be out here in the physical mainstream, in the physical world, and that one was turned on at Google, and the other one had to exist inside of a quantum portal. Now, quantum portal, quantum physics, that is the tiny, tiny little particles that structure. Well, it's more than particle, but it structures molecules. It tells molecules what to do, what to be, and that's where they're doing the programming. They're programming, reconstructing the universe. I mean, recently they came out with something, a scientific study that's really got astrophysicists and scientists around the world just baffled. They sent out a signal, or received a signal from way out in the furthest reach of the universe, and it came back as code that was written, that Google uses, a search engine code that was actually based upon a code that was written in the 1940s. That's what came back to them. As if this has been going on a little bit longer than we think. And that's the way they always do things, you know that. They let us know about 40 years later what they've been up to. That's just the way things go. Work around here. Things have happened to me. One person says, well, in this reality, my wife is not my wife. In this reality, she remembers, me loving ketchup, but I hate ketchup in this reality. But in another reality, apparently I loved ketchup. Little things like that. I was talking to my mother the other day, and she doesn't remember anything of my childhood like I remember it. Like I won awards when I was 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. At the libraries, the local libraries, the little town libraries, and then the city libraries. I won all these awards for reading all these books. And I remember the little stars they put up on, the little gold stars I got. And she doesn't remember any of it. None of it. And there's more. We both, my mother and I, clearly remember that preacher guy dying. We distinctly remember Billy Graham dying. I think it was back during when Reagan was president, or maybe Carter was president, and maybe even later. But I remember Reagan did attend the funeral. There was everybody was there. It was on national TV. It was a big hoopla. Everybody was there. And yeah, he died. Now, I don't remember, the Mandela thing. I have a remember of both things happening. I remember him dying in prison, and then I remembered suddenly he's president. So I was confused about that. But that was way back when he got out of prison. I was like, what? So this thing has been going on for a while. Now, I'm not going to say all those other things like, play it again, Sam, that Humphrey Bogart said. I'm not going to say all those things are real. Because I remember, those he never said that. But when I was a kid, everybody said, play it again, Sam. But he never said that to the piano player in Casablanca. You could look at it over, and if he does, well, he didn't from my reality. And there's other things, You Dirty Rat, by, James Cagney. He never said that. I know that. When I was 13 years old, my dad, I'm 56 now. My dad says, he never said that. And so I looked at the movie, and you're right. He never said, you dirty rat. But then the changes in the Bible, the wolf lays down with the lamb. And this is where it gets freaky. Because it's as if you look at that one and you compare it to where they changed the part about forgive us our trespasses to forgive them their debtors or something. If you look at that has a subliminal psychological message in it that serves the elite, because the elite are the wolf, and you'll always be in debt to the elite. So it's like serving this underlining psychological, and that was talked about in that was actually talked about in the 80s, how they were going to do that. They were going to change and abridge the text of Bibles and everything, and they were going to bring in a new philosophy, a new way of thinking to a new generation, to bring in a new religion. And they were going to make subtle changes in the text. This has to do with mass consciousness and the 100th monkey phenomenon,